It doesn't matter what the culture and society at the time treated as no big deal. The slave owners assaulted their slaves, emotionally, sexually, and physically, all the time. They knew those things were wrong. They did them out of greed and pure evil.
Why not try to...
I swear the quest to rewrite American history in order to protect white fragility is in full swing with Trump and his allies. Today, a reporter asked him about some of the changes that have been made to water down history at the Smithsonian, and of course, Trump's response? It wasn't about accuracy or education. It was about making sure history is fair, which in MAGA speak usually means scrubbing away anything that makes white Americans uncomfortable. Because apparently, the biggest threat to this country isn't poverty, healthcare costs, or gun violence. It's history books and museum plaques that tell the truth. So let's hear it straight from him. Here's Trump explaining how fair history apparently means watering down the truth and turning museums into comfort zones for white grievance.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the Smithsonian, I know that your administration is seeking to weed out a lot of this left-wing spin that's in the museums, but we're seeing from people like Brian Stelter or other commentators that they're insinuating that you are trying to change history according to your narrative. What's your response to that, and is there anything you particularly like to do?
Well, we want the museums to treat our country fairly. We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner, which is what many of them, not all of them, but many of them are doing. Our museums have an obligation to represent what happened in our country over the years, good and bad, but what happened over the years in an accurate way.
So here's what's going on. Trump just told reporters he wants history in our museums to be fair and not woke. That's Trump's latest euphemism for stripping out anything that makes white people uncomfortable. But let's pause for a second. Fair history? When anyone says fair, they usually mean whitewashing. Case in point, the White House has ordered an internal review of 8 major Smithsonian museums, including the African American History Museum and the National Museum of American History, to remove divisive narratives and improper ideology and make exhibits more in line with American exceptionalism. This is not about accuracy. It's about comfort. Institutions that preserve the full scope of American history are now being told to sanitize painful truths. And if that weren't enough, the administration may be replacing PBS, a long-standing public broadcasting institution, with PragerU. Yes, PragerU, the conservative video platform that once released a cartoon with Christopher Columbus saying slavery was no big deal and that being a slave is better than being killed. That's not education, that's propaganda. So here's what we've got. Trump wants museums to tell a comfortable story and wants to seed that same comfort with children via PragerU videos. What's truly dangerous is not an exhibit about slavery, it's flipping the script so that you're told you should feel okay with it. It's not about teaching history, it's about making certain people feel good about it. This is fucking disturbing.
Slavery is as old as time and has taken place in every corner of the world, even amongst the people I just left. Being taken as a slave is better than being killed, no? Before you judge, you must ask yourself, what did the culture and society of the time treat as no big deal?
It doesn't matter what the culture and society at the time treated as no big deal. The slave owners assaulted their slaves, emotionally, sexually, and physically, all the time. They knew those things were wrong. They did them out of greed and pure evil. And let's be real, the whole everyone was doing it back then argument is just a lazy way to excuse atrocities. Not everyone was doing it. There were abolitionists. There were enslaved people constantly fighting for freedom. There were communities that rejected slavery entirely. The idea that Columbus or any other colonizer somehow gets a moral pass because it was normal is a dangerous lie. We don't excuse murderers because other murders happened that year. We don't excuse theft because other people were stealing. Wrong is wrong, whether it happened yesterday or 500 years ago. And the truth is, When you start downplaying slavery, you're not just distorting history, you're telling the descendants of enslaved people that their pain doesn't matter, that their ancestors' suffering was just an unfortunate footnote. That is not education, that is gaslighting on a historic scale. So no, it wasn't better to be a slave than to be killed. It was evil, it was violent, and it was a choice made by people who cared more about profit than human life. Period.
Don't want no enemies or ops. Envy in they heart, I tell them stop. Vacation on the yacht.